Please put your questions in the chat so I can see it in the chat. Take a sip of water. All right, I do believe we are on YouTube. Great. So we're there on YouTube. If you have a question, please put it in the chat. And as we go through the presentation, please put your questions in the chat. Good to be here. Nice to have you, Bev. Good afternoon, dear panel. Oh, good afternoon. Good afternoon to you too. Really happy that you're here. Good afternoon. People are coming in, and I know, I mean, yesterday we had an amazing amount of people. 76 people were registered by yesterday, and we had 34 coming live, and I know that's amazing. So I really appreciate people's time. I know people are busy, and there's so many other things happening. And up to today, we had 84, I think, people registered, and they only had 2 days because we had some issues last week with registration. So we appreciate you. We appreciate the fact that you're spreading the word and you're sharing it, because we really do want the community to benefit from this information. So for those who weren't here yesterday, my name is Joanna Daniel. I am a qualified counselor. I'm trauma informed, and I live in Wales with my family. And I do courses, retreats, and conferences that works with adult survivors of childhood trauma and abuse. This conference, however, is specifically for the Black and ethnic minority communities, because we know that we're disproportionately impacted by mental health. And because we're disproportionately affected by mental health, then, you know, I was at a BME summit 2 weeks ago, KELISA, and the conversation happened around mental health. And I thought, you know, what can I do? I can only work with one person at a time. There are no retreats this year because of COVID, and I didn't do an online conference either. So what can I do to help our community? And this is what came. And I thank you so much, and the others, for saying yes to giving your time. So for those who are just coming on, again, my name is Joanna Daniel, and I'm the host of the conference. I'm a counselor, and I live in the UK. And today we're talking about beyond the lockdown, what's going to happen. You know, I've spoken at a few summits like this that people are doing online, and they're asking the same question. Is my mental health going to be affected after the lockdown? Is it going to be impacted? Will the lockdown impact my mental health? Those are the kind of questions that is being asked of me. And so we wanted to bring this conversation to our community so that we can talk about it. Yesterday, Alison and I, we talked about some of the stigmas that is in our community around counseling, around therapeutic support, around getting help, around just saying we're not okay. And we know that there's a long history of that happening. And this really is to start a conversation to kind of start to break that up. Okay, we're going to have a poll later on in the conversation. I'm going to ask you really to take part in. Thank you very much. So today we have KELISA, and it's 7 a.m. for her. And I'm really grateful that she's come and given her time, because I don't know if I can speak at 7 a.m. But thank you so much for giving your time. So KELISA VOLSON is a licensed professional counselor and an authenticity coach, and she lives in the US. Please tell us your state which state are you in?
I'm in the state of Georgia.
Georgia, you're in Georgia. And KELISA works with people with autism. She's an autism advocate, and she's going to tell us some more about herself and about that work. And then we're going to go on into the questions.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so glad to be with you all. And yes, I do work with autism advocacy, early intervention, awareness. I am an autism mom. I have a son that's 6 years old. He's on the spectrum. So especially in our Black communities, we don't have a lot of information or awareness about autism. So I wanted to do something about spreading awareness in our communities, especially about what it looks like. You know, it's different vast areas of autism, so that's why it's not so easy to detect, but just giving specific areas of what to kind of look for early on so you can get the help you need. And I also, like you, Joanna, work with trauma, a lot of anxiety, especially now going on during this lockdown. I've worked with a lot of anxiety and fear of the unknown, and
Mm-hmm.
just,
Mm-hmm.
being stir crazy and not being able to do some of the things that you're used to doing. And so, yeah, I work with mostly teenagers and young adults as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yes, we know anxiety and things like that are on the increase because of the lockdown. So if you have any questions, as you did yesterday, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And any questions or comments, please put them in the chat, and we will address them. Okay, so Kalisa, beyond the lockdown, as I said, I've been speaking to different people doing summits like this. Since the lockdown began, people want to know, is my mental health going to be adversely affected? Do you find that more people are having problems now than they had before, or was it existing problems that are recurring or had gotten worse because of?
Well, actually, I believe, and I share this a lot when I'm actually seeing clients, is that you've already had these issues
Mm,
that were underlying. But now that we have so much going on and you don't have some of the coping skills and the things that you're used to doing to kind of keep you going and keep you distracted, it has magnified the
mm-hmm,
intensity of those effects and symptoms. And now you don't know what to do because you have to sit and deal with them head on and not
mm-hmm.
ignore them. So now it's just a culmination of all of these things that I'm in the house with my kids. I'm working from home. When school was out, when school was in, I was helping them with school. My spouse is here. We're here all together all day. We can't go out and retreat and do something. So now it's
Yeah.
just in your face.
Yes. It is, isn't it? As you said, not gotten worse, but because there were existing problems before, it kind of made it worse. So what would you say somebody needs to do if they realize that their home and the problems that they had before is getting worse? What are some of the things that they can do to begin to manage and to look after themselves so it doesn't escalate?
Yeah, exactly. So, first of all, you have to be aware of those things that are going on because sometimes we don't realize it's actually an issue. And most of the time, it's just, you have a short fuse, you're easily irritable. You can't sleep at night. I hear a lot of people saying they have sleep problems and anxiety and,
Yeah.
all these worries and concerns, and they have all these racing thoughts. So, that is a clear indication of, consistently having these issues that you may need to seek some, you know, sound advice or, help from a professional.
Yes. Okay. So those are some of the things that you need to do if things are getting worse. Seek some help from a professional. And we talked about what that is, and we're going to talk this evening about how to access some services and certain services that are available that people can access. But I think I would say don't stay home with anxiety that is getting worse. Yesterday there was a lot of questions around teenagers and young adults and how they're managing that. Do you get questions about that, or do you see people like that in your practice? How would a
Yes.
parent with teens manage now? I mean, they can't go out. They've got lots of energy. They've got lots of energy. They can't go out, and they're struggling. How can a parent help their teen manage this period?
I think working with a lot of teenagers, they just like the transparency.
Yeah.
And if we allow ourselves to say, hey, I'm like you said earlier about talking about I'm not okay, and just letting your kids know, hey, this is a time that none of us has been through, and it's one of these times that we're all trying to navigate through, and sometimes we're not feeling our best, and then that can allow them to be open about their feelings and say,
Yes.
okay, well, I'm having a tough time, and all these things, because a lot of them have not being able to have their school functions and
Yeah.
graduating and all these different things. So it's hard on everybody, and just being
Yes.
able to communicate with each other is key.
Yes. So communicate with your young people. Understand that it's hard on everybody. They're having to give up quite a lot. I was thinking about the young people who prepared for their exams and weren't able to do it earlier this year, and how hard that must have been. Because I know that when we prepare for our exams and we get to do it, there's a just a weight lifted, and lots of young people leading up to exams have different kind of anxiety issues, and then you have that build up, and then it didn't happen, and then you have to wait again, and that must be a really anxious time for them. So
Yeah.
just talk to your young people, just talk to them. And how children expect you to know everything. They think you must know all the answers. So my son came to me, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, and said, Mom, when is the lockdown going to be over? And he was waiting for like a date. And I laughed, and I thought, children are just amazing, because they expect me to know a date, when it's going to end and when the virus is going to disappear. And
Right.
I don't have the answers. But it's hard as a parent to tell them that you don't have the answers. But we have to
Right.
sit and have that conversation and realize that, okay, so what can we do to help them to manage better? My son's an extrovert. He loves people. People love him. He wants to talk to people. He needs them, because that's a part of him. How do
Hmm.
we manage this time and know that some of the behaviors that are happening is not bad behavior?
Right. I think just being gracious and patient with one another, because, if we're all in this certain space together, we're gonna have those times where we're gonna
Yeah.
get flustered and frustrated. And don't feel guilty about it. I tell people a lot of times, don't feel guilty because you get frustrated. It's a natural reaction. It's just how you handle and channel the energy of frustration that's gonna be, the point. And so just taking that quiet time, even if it's just a few minutes, go lock yourself in the bathroom and take some deep breaths, and, come back refreshed so you can, be ready for, the rest of the day. I mean, it
Mm,
doesn't take a whole lot, but it does require some recentering on everybody's part. And having
mhm.
some sense of a routine is really good too, because sometimes when we feel like we don't have a routine or nothing to do, then all of these thoughts and emotions and things come about because we're not being productive.
Yes.
So having a good routine of some sense of sort is helpful as well.
Yes, yes. And I don't know, we homeschool, so we're always home. So, for us, it's only the element of choice being taken that makes it difficult, and the period that it's lasted. But other than that, we're home. But for the parent who isn't home much, they're busy working back to back. And now this family find themselves at home in the inner city, not much space to be outside. How can a family like that manage to make sure that everybody's mental health, what are some of the things that they can do to ground each other, to make sure everybody's okay?
Yeah, just taking time to, like I said, first of all, to yourself. It's kind of like, if you're on a plane, sometimes
Mm,
they tell you to put the mask on yourself before you put it on anybody else, including your kids. So taking that time for yourself first, and then coming together at a certain time and just checking in with each other and saying, okay, how are you doing? What's your day like? What are your frustrations, your questions, and what can we do as a family together? There's so many things that, with technology, that we're able to do and able to kind of help us engage with other people, and,
mm-hmm.
different activities that you can do as, a group of people. So, you just got to be kind of creative
Yes,
and think outside the box a little bit, but definitely sharing with each other, and definitely, first of all, taking that time to yourself. I can't stress that enough. You have to
yeah.
do that.
I completely agree. As adults, take time for yourself, because we are kind of the temperature for everybody else. And when we're not okay, the children won't be okay, whatever ages they are. I am aware that some families, some injuries, there's disconnection. The family wasn't together anyway, and everybody was kind of ships passing in the night, and that was what was comfortable. And now they're thrown together, and it's having to wait out this period together.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking of that family of where it initially it might be a challenge, And initially it might feel like everybody, nothing's going right, and nobody's okay. But just some of the same things would apply for them, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, it's forcing you to address these issues instead of, like you said, passing through the wind and just, covering it, stuffing the issues and just pretending like they don't exist. So
Mm,
now it's in your face and you can't do anything about it but confront it and,
mm-hmm,
and deal with it head on. And so sometimes things happen. Unfortunately, this is happening, but sometimes things happen for us to be able to grow and evolve
mm,
so we can
mm-hmm,
move forward.
mm-hmm,
So you can't do that if you're still stuck in something that needs to be addressed and resolved in your life.
absolutely, absolutely. So that's why, we're hoping that as many people as possible will view this, and to get ideas of how they can connect and listen and hear each other, and provide safe spaces in the home where everybody can just be okay. One of the things I believe in terms of helping us and manage our well-being in general, and when we're triggered, when we're in that fight or flight place, and there's anger and irritability, and everybody's in the emotional brain, is to movement.
Hmm.
I advocate movement. Put a song on and everybody dance sillily
Yes.
around the living room.
Yes.
just that alone will just kind of release lots of energy that is would normally make stir things up and make everybody's in an argument or fight or creates tension. So put some music on and everybody dance.
Right. That's my go-to thing. I absolutely
Yeah.
love music. So when I find myself getting a little flustered, and then I have my son who's on the spectrum of autism. He's definitely has to have a routine. So his
Mm,
routine has totally been disrupted. And
mm-hmm.
so trying to manage and help him, deal with his frustrations and keep him on a routine of some sort, it gets, it gets to be a lot. And so, just taking a few minutes, like I said, and putting on my favorite song, and it helps. It
It does
helps.
help. It does help. Yeah. Play your favorite artists, whoever they are, and get silly together as a family. Just the movement and the laughter will really just help to ease the tension, and everybody can be okay again. So there's a question I want to ask. You know how sometimes we measure our pain, we measure what's going on with us versus what's out there in the world, what's on the news, that kind of thing. Some people might feel like their problem isn't big enough, for them to get help. How do we talk to this person so that they can get the courage to get help before it's too late?
Well, I say, you can treat it like, a wellness check. Sometimes it's not always an issue, but just maybe I need some advice or some direction.
Mm,
And I think if we look at it as maybe a preventative thing, like we do when we go to the doctor for your physical issues,
that's
the
right.
eye doctor, the dentist, just, maintenance. I
Mm,
think it's important to just have somebody that's not going to be judgmental and that's totally objective to just kind of help you see what's going on and give you a objective viewpoint of how you
mhm.
can
I think we're
continue on the
frozen.
right path. So,
Yeah.
yeah, look at it as okay, it's just a wellness check that I need to just do as part of my overall health.
Mm.
That way it'll kind of eliminate the stigma and all of the things that we think about therapy and counseling and psychiatry.
Yeah. So the word is, don't measure what's going on with you. Don't measure yours against anybody else. Yours is just as worthy as the next person's, whatever it is. Think about it as a wellness check. And in the UK, we have GPs where you can go to your GP and say, this is what's going on for me. And I know that maybe because of lockdown, they might not be seeing non-emergencies. But I also know that there's a lot of places now that offer counseling online. There are places that people can call and say, this is what's
Mhm.
happening. And we're going to talk about some of those services this evening. So please do come back so we can talk about places that you can call just to check in, do that wellness check. It's, if you're crying, it's okay. If it's a day when you're overwhelmed and you don't understand why, it's okay. It's one of those days. Call. That's a good day to call. And don't reason it out. Don't think that you're silly or anything. Don't call yourself names or anything like that. If it's one of those days, it's one of those days. um,
Right.
and just do that check-in. um,
Right.
saying that, I know that still we have barriers to access. We can't deny that there's some barriers, some perceived, some real. Sometimes I was reading an article in the Guardian last week where a woman went to counseling, and the counselor already had a preconceived idea of who she was and what the problem was. The problem was
Mm-hmm.
far from what she thought it was. So we
Right.
know that there is those things that we have to overcome ourselves, because in the UK and maybe where you are, that counseling has a white middle class female face. That's what it looks like. And so people might feel challenged by that, and so not make the call. And though there's an organization actually that has uh, covers Black therapists and psychotherapists, and I'm going to put that in later on. But just so in light of that, people from our communities often face individual and societal challenges that can affect access to mental health services. Can we talk about some of the individual challenges and give ideas of how people might overcome? How can somebody who, I'm going to say a man, because sometimes males struggle and take longer to get help than women would, or the women who grew up in the environment where we don't talk about it, and we just get through, we just struggle through.
Mm-hmm.
And she's been struggling through, but just feels like none of the coping mechanisms that she's had before is working now. How can we talk to her? What are some of the ideas that we can give her to get over the hump of counseling as a white middle class face?
Yeah, I think just, putting it out there and bringing more awareness about, there are different resources. And, one of the things is I hear a lot is, oh, counseling is too expensive.
Mm,
And so if we kind of eliminate some of those myths about
mhm.
counseling, then I think that will be one of the best things to kind of help people be more receptive to doing it. So, like you said, most people, if they're already a little wary about doing it, and then you have all of these other factors like if it's expensive or if I don't have somebody that's going to be able to identify with me and my issues, then that's going to be even more deterrents and barriers to keep me from actually seeking out,
Yeah,
counseling or therapy. So just debunking those myths, putting the information out there, making sure that we're, you know, in the communities and letting people know these are your options, your resources, and just again communication, transparency, letting people know that this is not, you're not quote unquote crazy if you go to therapy. That's another thing, in our
mm,
communities.
mm,
Oh, if you go to therapy or on medication, you're crazy. And
mhm,
that's one of
mhm,
the worst things that I hear too, is that it has to be something wrong with you for
mm,
you to be going to therapy or seeking help. And again,
mhm.
like I said, sometimes it's just a wellness check or
Yeah,
preventative or something to just as guidance.
yes,
So yeah, those things I think will be the start of helping debunk those, stigmas and deterrents
yeah.
for people.
Because it can be a deterrent, but you're saying just, I think, not deny your need for help, and not make that stop you from claiming that what you need, because you're just as worthy of the support as anybody else is. So
Right.
not deny yourself that need to have that wellness check, to go book an appointment with your GP and have that conversation, to ask to be referred, to ring one of the associations that govern, one of the governing bodies, and to go on the website, to type it in Google, find a therapist in my area, find a counselor in my area, to ask those questions. And one of the things you said, which I hear people say as well, is counseling is expensive, because there's that perception that it is expensive, and it's only some people can afford it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's true. As a counselor myself, who I know work with all kind of circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
and work with people's circumstances a lot of times, I know that there are many people like me who are willing to do that. So um, our encouragement to you is, if you feel the need, if there is recurring things going on for you, if as we're in the lockdown and you're feeling the pressure of not being busy and things are happening, that don't deny yourself the don't deny yourself getting help. You're worthy of it. It's okay. So there's a comment that I would just want to get to really quick before we, there's a question as well, which I think is really good. Somebody said, hi, I have two nieces who did their first year of sixth form, like we were talking about earlier, the young people, and felt like it was a wasted year. So we have to talk to them about a lot about no time wasted and try to look forward. Yeah, it's really, really challenging for young people. They have their lives all mapped out, and it's almost like a year of it. It can feel like a year of it is lost, where, and it's being able to have adults around them who can help them to see that no time's wasted and it's not lost time, and how, what are the things that we can do in this period, to make it not a lost time, not to not just be marking time until the lockdown ends, but really to enjoy time together, to time with
Mhm.
yourself, to develop a hobby, to do things that you would not have done normally, you would not have had time to do. And some amazing things can come up, because I think we're really creative and talented people.
Absolutely. I agree.
So there's a question, Kalisa. In your practice, have you come across many girls, especially who've been diagnosed with bipolar, who are actually undiagnosed autistic?
Wow, that's a very good question. And thank you for that question. What I find is that girls are more difficult to diagnose as autistic, yes, because their symptoms aren't as in your face or as disruptive sometimes as the males, meaning their behaviors aren't as explosive. They're more so, they may be more docile in a public environment, but at home they're more chatty and different things. And then they may have some, behavioral issues at home, but it's not like in the public where at school or somebody can say, okay, this is an issue, because they're flying under the radar with some of those qualities that would put them on the spectrum. So, not, I would say, particularly bipolar, but just certain, varying types of um, disorders. And bipolar can be one of them, but I do find there can be a lot of ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, depression, and anxiety. And you can also have a combination of those with autism as well. So it makes it, very difficult to diagnose, especially when they're older. So that's why it's so important to have the awareness and, you know what's going on early, because early intervention is the best. So that way you can get the help you need. The parents can get the training and awareness they need to be able to navigate and help their children
Mm-hmm.
along the process. So it's so many varying symptoms, and we call it a spectrum of what it looks like or what it can be. I mean, you can have those that have very hard difficulties. They don't have really fluent verbal expressions, to those that can talk just like you and me, but they just have certain behavioral aspects that cause them to have difficulties functioning in life. So it's very, very broad. And yes, girls are harder to diagnose than boys, definitely. And you see a lot of varying diagnoses for girls that aren't accurate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. Um, for everyone that are here, we have a poll happening at the moment. If you can just look below on your screen, there is a poll. It's probably right beside your Q&A and your chat bar. Could you please take that poll for us? We were talking yesterday about how we could perhaps not make this a one-off, but carry on educating our community and providing support and value. And we were talking about some of the areas possibly that we could focus on a quarterly basis. So if you please take the poll for us, then we will have an idea of some of the things that you might want addressing and how we can move forward. We want to be able to use what we have in order to help the skills that we have to help the community and to get us to places where we're not adversely affected by the stuff that goes on around us. One of the things that we see, Kalisa, a lot, and one of the concerns, and on the summit that I was on, was that Black women and men, for that matter, is overrepresented on mental health wards, and we are over medicated and all of those kind of stuff. What are some of the things that might present themselves as mental health but isn't?
Um, I would say like just a lot of stress. I always say stress is the root of all evil.
Yeah, well, I agree with you.
So definitely um stress that has come from, work, or a lot of things that deal with relationships,
Mm,
negatively communicating, not setting boundaries, being people pleasers. And then sometimes we have a lot of, you know, different, um, it's just a lot of different factors that could look like mental health that's really just stress. Like I said, it all comes down to stress, boundaries, and communication. And so if you have dysfunctions in those areas, it can definitely cause you to have some dysfunctions or breaks in, your mental capacity that look like mental health, and also
mm,
some physical things. You could
mm-hmm,
have, some physical issues, like you may have some levels, thyroid issues,
mm,
different
mm-hmm,
type of
mm-hmm.
medical issues that could make it look like you have mental health issues as well. So definitely you have to keep all of that in check, and that can go along with stress too.
Yes.
um, I tell you a little brief story about me recently. About a year ago, I was going through a lot of stress, overworking, doing so many things, wearing a lot of hats. And I started to, my body felt like it was just breaking down, literally. But what it came down to, it was like somatic symptoms of
Wow.
anxiety. I felt like my skin was burning and all these different things that you would think, okay, I need to go to the hospital or I need to go see a doctor. But it was those symptoms that were a result of anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
headaches, and different things. So you have to be in tune and aware of your stress levels so you can recognize, okay, what is this really going on? Because sometimes you'll go to the doctor and they say nothing's wrong with you, but I feel something's wrong with me.
Mm, mm-hmm.
So it definitely is one of those things where you have to be in tune of your stress levels and what's going on in your life.
So that, really, really good to be in tune with your stress levels, understand what's going on in your life, know what is a stressor for you. Because there's some known things that we know: moving, family
Mm-hmm.
family breakdown, finances. We know are stresses. So some of those things that we know are stresses, but there's so many other things that are stresses in our lives, and it's really important to know what makes me feel overwhelmed and not dismiss that.
Right.
Not dismiss what makes you feel overwhelmed, and address it, because sometimes it manifests itself, as Kalisa was saying, in so many different ways. It manifests itself in physical illnesses. It manifests itself in mental health problems, but you might not it's not on the side of the spectrum where you need medication or long-term therapy or anything like that. You might just need to talk to somebody and help somebody help give you focus and direction. That's it.
Right.
So that the word is, don't delay, don't put it off. If you're exhibiting some of these symptoms, if you see somebody in your family or a friend um having these symptoms, sometimes we see some people withdrawn, not able to participate. They're not eating, not sleeping, not looking after themselves. Self-care has declined. All of those things are indicators that something is wrong. And if you have the people that are around you, then please do get help, and direct people to support to get some help. So some of those things that could manifest itself but isn't. And Kalisa is saying stress, boundaries, and communication. Not being able to communicate your boundaries can be stressful.
Yes, absolutely.
That can be really stressful, because there is a sense of people being taken advantage of, people,
Hmm.
people walking all over me, not being able to communicate your boundaries in the workplace, in your home, to your
Hmm.
family, not being able to say what's going on for you, to express your needs. Those things could become stressful too. And I, try to talk about it. There are helplines that you can call and talk. If it's finances, you can call and talk to somebody. There's an organization that I find really, really useful. And I don't know how they're working now with the lockdown, but I know they provide services online. They have a website at least, and it's Persons Against Poverty. That really does help, because budgeting is one thing that really causes a lot of stress, like more month than money, and how do we manage? And really, that's the issue. It's not because we hate each other, we want to argue, and those
Hmm.
things can escalate. Um,
Right.
one last thing, Kalisa, one last question. I want us to look at coping mechanism. What are some of the mechanisms that people might use to cope that might mask some of the symptoms that they need to get help with? Like, how you say, go get that wellness check.
Hmm.
Well, could people be using things that would mask those symptoms, that make it last longer and build before they get help? What are some of the things that people use, and how can they change it?
Yeah, sometimes people use, being able to go out and travel as I know I did. Just every time I felt overwhelmed, oh, I need to go somewhere. Or,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I need to buy something. That makes me feel good. Or, oh, I need to go eat this certain thing because it makes me feel good at the time. It's comforting. So sometimes and even the negative things, drinking,
Mm,
doing, certain illegal things, um, out drugs and all those different things, sex, you know, a lot of things people use as a coping mechanism to kind of keep from dealing with the issues head on. And
mm-hmm.
so now that I'm not able to, get out and be around people or do some of the things that I, used to do, I am stuck and I have to deal with these issues and confront them. And I don't know what to do because all of the things that I'm used to doing is not available to me.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And I mean, I mentioned, I don't remember if yeah, I mentioned yesterday that I worked in addictions for 7 years, and we know that alcohol is a depressant too. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're feeling low and you think, let me have, drink excessively in order to feel better, then it just makes it worse, and you want more and more and more. So the idea is, if you're feeling low, to talk to someone, to get that check done, and to reach out to an organization, to their online chats, the Samaritans and different places that you can call, just to say, I'm not okay. um, what we want you to do really is to not deny that need, that feeling that you have, that you're not okay, to not reason it away, to not measure it against anyone else's, to know that yours is valid, and it's, your feeling is valid too, and that we want you to be able to do something about how you feel and not reason it out. For those who have taken the poll, thank you so much. We're going to keep doing the poll throughout the conference. When we end on Sunday, we're going to keep doing it, and just see what people want, and if they want us to continue this every quarter. Thank you so much for those who've attended. We're back here at 7 p.m. where we're talking about appropriate services, affordable services, and we're going to talk about what some of those services might look like, who they're for, how you can access them, where are they. So please do come back, come with your questions. It's Friday evening. Hopefully people are kind of winding down from the week. So we hope that many more people who have registered will come. We're also going to have a link that if you want the replays, that you can put you can use that link to get access to the replays. And on Sunday, when the conference is over, I'll send all the replays out and you can have them to watch again and again and again. KELISA, I really appreciate your time, and that you take this time to come and to talk to us and to talk to people. I think one of the messages that before I say that, do you have anything else to say before we kind of sum up?
Yes, I'm just so excited about being a part of this. This is actually my first international speaking as far as
Yay.
mental health. So I'm excited to work with Joanna Moore. She's such a sweet spirit. So I'm so excited about what you're doing, Joanna. It's very much needed. And yeah, I'm in Georgia. If you're in the US and know somebody, I am at risingheightscounseling.com. I own my own practice and I also do online therapy. So, yeah.
Mm.
And I can also provide resources for other areas as well.
Do you have a Facebook page that people can find you?
Yes, the Facebook page is Rising Heights Counseling Center, and my Instagram is Rising Heights Counseling.
Rising Heights Counseling Center is Facebook. I'm putting it in the chat. And Rising Heights
Counseling is
Counseling
Instagram.
is Instagram. So go on over and find KELISA, and then you can they message you via either platform?
Yes.
And you can message her via either platform. Okay. So thank you so much. I think the message for me is that I get from you is don't put it off. Do a wellness check. I think everybody needs it at least once a year.
Mm-hmm.
We all need it at least once a year. And I think throughout this time, we want to be, when we're not as busy as we're used to, then more things will come to the surface. And
Right.
those things might demand attention in different ways. Don't deny yourself the need to get some help with that. Um, Somebody says, I'd like to say I found your discussion very informative as I'm looking into setting up support from individuals from various backgrounds. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for this. We appreciate that. You can reach out
Absolutely.
to us. You can find KELISA at Rising Heights Counseling via Facebook, Center via Facebook, or Rising Heights Counseling on Instagram. I am Joanna from Wounds to Scars on Instagram, and my Facebook page is Wounds to Scars. Or you can email me at joanna@woundstoscars.com if you have any questions about services and stuff like that. All right, so we're back here at 7 when we're talking about services, appropriate services, and tomorrow we are doing question and answer. Alison and I are going to be here just answering questions, and so just having a chat. So please do come and ask your questions around mental health, around training as a counselor, training as a therapist, books, and all things wonderful. Just come. I just absolutely love this area. It doesn't feel like work for me. No 2 days the same, because people are so different. It's really exciting, and we're really excited to share what we have. And then on Sunday we're talking about Black men and mental health. That one's not to be missed. So
Right. Absolutely.
yeah, so thank you again. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, KELISA, for your time.
Thank you.
Bye.